Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Mysticsense series on telepathy. Today with us is Lady Nenari from Mysticsense. Before we dive into this fascinating world of telepathy, I have a question for our audience to answer and think about during this podcast episode. Can telepathic connections be hijacked by malevolent entities, and what can be done to protect oneself? So let's dive right into our subject and go ahead and share a little bit about yourself, Lady Nenari, and your spiritual practice, please.
Well, aloha. As you said, I am Lady Nenari, and my extension on Mysticsense is 7504. And I'm an experienced Akashic Record reader. That is your soul records. And I have over 35 years of expertise in delving into the realms of your soul and its path. I've had 12 near-death experiences here in this life, and I'm also blessed with these natural-born gifts. And so in accessing these Akashic records or your soul records, I offer guidance on the life path of your journey, whether it is in the realms of channeling, aura reading, chakra alignment and balancing, meditation. I am a Reiki master as well, doing some crystal healing work, shamanic healing, dream interpretation, one of my favorites, animal communication, which is telepathic, by the way, and numerology. I provide the essence of your soul to help guide you on your path. So whether it's uncovering things like your soul purpose, exploring your starseed origins, soul agreements that you have with other individuals from this life or other lives. I provide mentorship, guidance on things like your career path, relationships, including my favorite, twin souls and soulmates, addressing chakra imbalances in the body, exploring other lives that you've had and their impact in this life, or facilitating how to heal trauma and wounds. I provide honest, sourced directly from the universe, your soul's records and what's best for you. I love to have an approach that is based upon compassion and love. And I aim to give that guidance in what you truly need to hear rather than what it is you want to hear. And this is my gift that I love to do. It's what helps me to wake up in the morning and is just being able to be of service to humanity.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Lady Nenari, about yourself. Lots of skills you have, lots of talents, and lots of experience. So definitely head over to Mysticsense and check out Lady Nenari's profile and add her to your favorites list to get a reading with her at any time. So our first question on this topic of telepathy is define telepathy as the ability to communicate thoughts and feelings without using words. Discuss how telepathy works and examples. What are your thoughts on that, please?
So actually, many people are free from understanding telepathy is actually our first language. We often think it's what we're doing right here of speaking, but telepathic communication is actually heart to heart, soul to soul communication. It's beyond words. And this is why I like what you had said in your asking for an explanation, because it's vibration, frequency, and energy. And if any of you and the listeners understand about Nikola Tesla and his work, he spoke about things like if you wanted to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of vibration, energy, and frequency. So really, telepathic communication and telepathy itself is really like a direct inner knowing. It's almost like you have no idea where it's coming from, but it's there. It's just like this isness. You just have this inner knowing. You just have this encompassing, even sometimes of all the different clairs. People will talk about clairs like clairvoyance, clairaudience, things like that. It's kind of like all rolled into one, and you have a deep intuitive connection with either the person or the animal or even a thing. You can pick up a crystal, even like this one that I have here. And we are made of telepathic energy, which is vibration and frequency. So is this crystal. So it's a communing, basically, or a communication beyond words. That's just this isness where you feel very interconnected. It's like this intimacy or intimacy where you're able to see into someone, an animal, or something, and be able to be one with it and communicate with it that way beyond the words.
Thank you for sharing that. It's very beautiful. I love that you use the term isness, like it simply is. Um, I feel like that's really powerful. And when we think about that, what just simply is, it is what it is. And you
Indeed.
don't try to make it something it's not.
Exactly, indeed. And that's what the universe really is. The universe is this isness. It is all that is. So that kind of encompasses even what you were saying, which is what is and what is nay or is not, in that sense, right? So it's the isness of everything all at once. And telepathic communication is really about, like you said, it's the isness. You're not trying to make it be something else. You just feel it. It's even hard to put into words, really, which is why it's like it's wordless. It's the isness of consciousness of the universe.
Yeah, a lot to grasp here. I feel like a lot of our people that watch this may be empathic. Um, that's kind of an assumption, but I feel like empaths could understand it a bit better, because a lot of the empath experience is just experiencing the emotions of other people or animals or plants, and it's very similar. I feel telepathic communication is that it's that experiencing of those thoughts, those experiences, those senses. Of another person, place, thing, animal. What are your
Well,
thoughts on that?
it's interesting you say that because empathy actually is a little known fact about that is there's two aspects to empathy. So empathy is what we usually think of, which is, yes, we have the ability to tune in, and I would agree with you that empaths do have the ability to be more in tune telepathically. And see, even your dog, see, feeling that energy. In that response. So it's really interesting that you say that because empathy is about being able to feel or sense or understand that telepathic communication. But a lot of times what people are free from understanding about empaths is empaths are also the result of a hypervigilance due to trauma. And so this is something that's one of my specialties that I assist people with when they call in to my extensions, here on Mysticsense. I do have a lot of callers that call in and they're like, you know what? First of all, I tell you, I love my extension number being 7504 because it's like all my favorite numbers in numerology. But having said that, a lot of them are empaths and they will call in and they don't realize that the empathy comes from being in like a hyper vigilant state due to trauma that they've experienced in their life. So they're really tapped in and tuned into that telepathy or that empathy because it's like they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so they're to be able to have that sense of safety, they're able to tune in telepathically at a much higher level, if for lack of a better word, or a more hyper vigilant state to that trauma. And it's actually a gift in that sense, because then they're able to suss things out as to whether, okay, somebody's energy is off, right?
That's very interesting. That observation that you had. Thank you for sharing that. I hadn't thought about that before, but it makes sense. Um, so our next question is: can you provide examples of telepathic experiences and how they manifest in different situations?
Oh my goodness. Okay, I love this question. This is like the fun of it, is what I call it, basically, because it's like telepathic communication is like all around us if we're just like looking for it. So, a quick example, like everybody would recognize and know. Have you ever had the experience where you've thought about somebody and then, like, all of a sudden they ring you? or they send you an email or a text, like you haven't heard from them in a long time and you're like, I wonder how they're doing. And then boom, they show up in email or text or a phone call. That's telepathic communication. You're putting out that vibration, that energy, that frequency, and boom, they're responding to it because they can sense it and feel it. They may not even be tapped into it consciously, but unconsciously, subconsciously, they're like, oh, maybe I should ring this person, and boom, they ring them. So that's one example, common example that many people know about. One of the other ones, which I find very interesting too, is a story, a quick story I'd like to share with you, is something that I've had with my twin soul. And it's one of the things I love giving Akashic Record readings on and mentoring guidance on is twin souls, because I've been with my twin soul for nearly 17 years now. And so we had this experience, which was very telepathic. And this happened like our first year together. And I was really tuned into his daughter. Now, at this point, I had not met either my twin soul or my daughter, or his daughter, pardon me, in the physical yet. But I just had this telepathic communication, this intuition combined with it that something was wrong with his daughter. So I messaged him and I said, look, is everything okay with your daughter? And he's like, yeah, she's fine. Right. And I'm like, no, I can sense something's off. And he's like, no, she's fine. Well, 3 weeks later, she ended up being violently ill and ended up in hospital. And he was kind of like freaked out. He was like, oh my God, how did you pick up on that? I'm like, I just telepathically, I could sense and feel something was off. So that kind of brings me to the next example. This is a big one that loads of people will notice. Let's say you go into a restaurant and you can just tell, like the server or maybe the manager or even the person you're sat next to at the next table, their energy's off. They're maybe cranky and they haven't said a word to you, but you can just sense it. You can feel it. That's telepathy. That's you tapping into that telepathic communication. And this is a really big one, especially for us as women. And for you as men, men tend to be a lot more logical. So they kind of like survey the area and they're like, oh, okay, well, everything looks fine. Logically, everything's safe. But we as women, we use our telepathy and our empathy and our sense of safety together often. And we can walk into a room and like feel like the energy's off and we don't feel safe. And we'll tell, if we have a man with us, we'll just say like, look, I need to leave. And the man's kind of like, what do you want about everything's safe and what have you? And she's just like, no, I can feel something's off. That's telepathy. Now, I will give a caveat to say something to this though, and it's very intermixed with this, is that sometimes our telepathy is mistaken for that trauma. We could be triggered by a wound or a trauma or something that happened in our life, going back to that empathy and that telepathy in that connection that has us feel unsafe, but it's not actually something in the room. It's because we're reacting to something related to trauma. So this is where in the readings that I do and the mentoring guidance that I give with Mysticsense, it's really wonderful because I'm able to dive deep into that and help people to heal. And so it's one of my specialties. So I really love that question.
Thank you for sharing. Lots of great examples here, and thanks for sharing your personal story as well. It kind of adds a nice touch to it. Yes, the telepathy is really all around us. We've all experienced it in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just, your intuition, just that knowing. So how can individuals recognize when they're experiencing telepathic communication, and what does it feel like? I feel like what we just talked about really leads into how we can recognize it versus the trauma response.
Absolutely. So the trauma response, to answer this, I'll give the trauma response first. The trauma response, you're going to feel a sense of like stress. You're going to feel a sense of anxiety. There's going to feel like you're almost like re-traumatized. And I'll give a quick story with this too, personally. For me, I used to live on Maui, and for those of you who know, I mean, pretty much the world over knows that of what happened last year in August with the Lahaina fire. I actually was there and I lost everything in that fire. And so I had that hyper vigilant triggered response basically from that trauma. And that's how I knew the difference between my telepathic communication and being in that sense of trauma. So you can tell you have that hyper sense of vigilance, basically, like, okay, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Now, telepathic communication is completely different. You feel a sense of like, it's almost indescribable, but it's like a deep inner knowing. And there's like this peace that comes with it. You just know. And the biggest example I can give on that one that I usually use is, and it goes hand in hand with intuition. It's like the love that a mother has for their children. I have 3 grown sons, and I also have a daughter who's in spirit, but I don't wake up in the morning and go, I wonder if I love my children today, right? You just know. So telepathic communication and being in that sense of telepathy is that deep inner knowing, and you just feel an overwhelming sense of peace in that. And there's also this sense of home. You feel a sense of being deeply connected and deeply soul fulfilled as well. It's very intense often in a good way. It can catch you off guard if you're not really in tune to it, kind of like, oh, what the heck was that, basically. But at the same moment, it's if you're feeling that sense of unhealedness, that's the only time you would feel like scared, or where it would bring something up for you. But when you're really deeply in that intuition and that telepathic communication with someone or an animal, it's like with a dog. You can be sat with a dog and just feel this overwhelming sense of love, because dogs are unconditional, right? They're unconditional love. You feel this overwhelming sense of love, of peace, of soul fulfillment, of soul contentment. And you're just being with this animal, being with this dog, right? And that's telepathic communication, because they're emanating, they're just pouring out of their spirit love. No matter how much you abuse a dog or harm a dog or anything else, what do? They're emanating that in telepathic communication. So that's kind of what it really feels like, is that sense of home, that sense of belonging, that sense of connection. Like there's free from being an other. There's just like this oneness.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that experience. So, our next question on this is exploring the topic of telepathic bonding between individuals, such as soulmates, twins, and close relationships. And I know you mentioned your twin soul before, so I feel like you have a lot to share on this. What are your thoughts, please?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so especially with twin souls. Now, all of us, we all have telepathic communication to one degree or other, like we spoke of earlier, about, like, someone who we're thinking of and they'll ring us, right? So we all have it on a certain level. But with twin souls, it's like amplified to the nth degree. And the reason is that twin souls are basically one soul in 2 bodies. So and the earthly analogy that I like to give is earthly twins. So earthly twins are the perfect example, because oftentimes they are the exact same DNA, the exact same RNA. They have even sometimes they look the same, right? But their telepathic communication is like off the charts. One can be on one side of the earth and the other can be on the other side of the earth. And maybe they're not, they ended up being adopted by like 2 sets of different parents or what have you, or their parents are divorced on opposite sides of the globe, right? But their communication is like off the charts. They can sense, they can feel each other, even being on opposite ends of the globe. That's what it's like with twin souls. Now, soulmates, you have that as well, because literally we're soulmates. All of us are soulmates of each other, and we play different roles, whether it's mother and son, or it's friendship, or it's a business relationship, or what have you. We all play those roles. However, with twin souls, it's a lot more amplified, because as one soul in two bodies, you're the closest essence to what we would call source, or the universe, or the divine, basically. And so that amplification is like exponential. Whereas with soulmates and other close relationships, it may come and go. With twin souls, it's like always there and always on. And very similar to like dogs or cats or horses or other animals. It's always on. You can't turn off a dog's telepathic communication. In other words, you can't turn off a cat or even a flower's ability to vibrate in that way. And one of the other ones I would say, which is what we call like an inanimate object, but is also who we are, is water. And interestingly enough, as we're doing this podcast right now, where I'm at, it's raining. Okay. So we're water. We're estimated to be like 70 to 90% water. And we're also minerals or sea salt. So that's your amplification there. And so twin soul essence or soulmate essence in close relationships, when you have telepathic communication, that amplification of water and minerals, crystalline essence, is there as well. So it helps to amplify it.
Interesting. We're salt, we're water, we're basically the ocean, which is a very beautiful thing. And it's funny because it was also raining all day here as well. I know you're like on the other side of the world for me, but yep. The fact that it's raining, and yes, and we're having a rainy week. It's funny because we're on the opposite sides of the planet now, and yet we have the same weather
exactly.
on the same day.
Telepathic communication, right? There you go.
Yes.
That's a perfect example of it.
It wanted us to be in the rain for this episode.
Absolutely.
Yes. Great. So let's go ahead and discuss how to strengthen telepathic communications with others, especially in close relationships.
Okay, so this one is a great question, and I'm going to actually start off with something that most people would be free from ever really considering. See, usually when this question comes up, it's like, okay, can you give me tips and tricks? Now, I can dive into that, and I will. But the first one that I really feel is vitally important, and again, I'm going to stress that when I do sessions in my own individual practice, or what I do on Mysticsense, when you tap into my extension 7504, basically what we're going to do is we're going to work on the number one thing that helps you to get into telepathic communication in your close relationships, which is healing. It is vital to be able to be a clear channel for telepathic communication to be healed. Now, are you going to be able to heal everything? No, we're always evolving. You're going to be healing throughout your entire life. But I'm talking about like core wounds, traumas, triggers, things that would keep you from being that clear channel. It's vitally important to strengthen your telepathic communication with others to be able to come from a healed space. And here's the reason why. Go back to what we were talking about earlier in the podcast. If let's say I'm thinking about somebody, but I also have a trigger and trauma about that relationship, that person has hurt me before, what is going to come through is going to be from that trauma and that trigger and that wound. And it's going to cloud over what's really coming through in telepathic communication. So in other words, this person might be sending me telepathically, you know what? I'm really sorry for being a jerk, let's say. But you're not going to be able to hear it, because you're still in that trauma and trigger about the fight you had, let's say, right? So coming from a healed place and being able to heal those traumas and triggers. And one of the things that I focus on in mentoring in the session work that I do on Mysticsense is getting beyond that into what I call inner soul child healing. So going back to the core roots of where this started for you in this life or in other lives, and being able to heal that so you're that clear channel. Now, from there, one of the biggest things to help in strengthening your telepathic communication with others in close relationships, especially, is one thing that we all share on this earth as souls in physical form, which is the breath. The more calm, the more centered, the more at peace that you are, the better your telepathic communication is going to be. So, deep Buddha belly breaths, as we call them, or diaphragmatic breaths, as we as singers call them, it actually helps to reset your autonomic nervous system. So any anxiety, any stress, anything like that that's happening in the body and in the mind can be calmed. When you're in a calm and centered space, you're then able to hear that telepathic communication from your loved ones, whether it is on the other side of the veil or they're here on this earth, whether it's your animal friend, let's say your horse, or even a flower. Or I'm going to go back to my crystal here for a moment. Crystals also have the unique ability to telecommunicate with us, to have telepathic communication. They are transmitters and receivers of what we are. Go back to what we talked about earlier, right? We're crystalline energy. We're minerals. When we get a cut and we bleed, what does it taste like? Salt, right? When we cry with our emotions and the water, what is that? Salt, minerals. So we vibrate in this same frequency, and we can just be sat holding a crystal and feel that vibration, that telepathic communication. Now, the other way to strengthen our telepathic communication, which is another one that very few people think about, is listening to another's heart. Again, whether we're talking about an inanimate object, such as a pen, or a spoon, or an actual human being that we're connected to, that we're close to, or an animal, or a flower, even the sea itself. Listening, being able to get in touch, in tune to their heart. I often call it listening to the message behind the message. And so one of the things that I love to do in sessions with doing Akashic Record readings, and I have this loads of times that when I get callers in to Mysticsense, they want, a lot of them are women, and I will get men who will ask this question as well, but I've been kind of nicknamed the man speak translator because I can understand what a man is feeling and thinking because I listen deeply to their heart and understand, and I listen to understand rather than to rebuttal, really tuning into someone and taking them as part of you so that you are one with them. I often call it walking a mile in their moccasins, as the shamanic tradition talks about, so that you can really be in tune with them and you can really hear them. Yeah. And that's what's really important in strengthening those relationships.
Thank you for sharing those tips. That understanding from that listening is super important because people have a million ways of communicating. And, listening with the heart, again, is one of those ways that transcends language. It transcends how we're communicating. So those misunderstandings are less likely to happen this way.
Absolutely. And especially with us as humans, really being able to listen to someone's love language. Give you a perfect example on this. My twin soul is a musician. And I too, I do sound healing as well. And I'm also a musician. I'm a singer. And so his love language is often evolving around music. So he may telepathically send me lyrics to a song or a title to a song. And most people will be like, well, yeah, that's not telepathic communication. Yeah, it is. Very much so. You're communicating in the only way that he often can only communicate, right? And because oftentimes we can't really voice what we're feeling. Maybe we're sad, maybe we're hurting, maybe we're upset, but we don't really have the words to really convey it. Music conveys what we can't always give voice to. And it's very much telepathic communication. So it's oftentimes that we'll communicate through music. And I often have loved ones who cross over, for me personally, as well as those who I assist as well, who will speak in terms of music as well. So music is a wonderful way to communicate to the heart and soul of someone. But really listening for their love language and being able to go beyond what the usual way in romantic relationships or other relationships of people, how they communicate, is important, because you may not necessarily communicate the way a typical relationship is supposed to go.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that as well about your relationship and how it's different from, again, typical relationships with their expected communication methods. Because everybody communicates in a different way. So what are some signs that indicate a strong telepathic bond between individuals?
Wow. This is a deep one. The biggest way to be able to do that is kind of what we were piggybacking on, what we were just talking about, is where you get one another, where you're actually able to deeply understand someone. In a way, this is a very strong indicator that you have a telepathic communication with someone. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with someone that you're close to. It could even be a coworker. Just as an example, I remember mentoring a woman many years ago, and this woman felt a very deep kinship with this coworker of hers, and she couldn't figure out why. And she's like, why do I feel so drawn to her? And I was like, well, first of all, you have another life together in which you were sisters, so that was a big one. But this telepathic communication was also because this woman mirrored who she was. Now, she didn't know anything about this woman until she actually started like having lunches and connections with her outside of work. She came to find out that basically this woman was who she was 20 years before. And she was resonating with the woman basically of who she was, right? Who she used to be and how she could relate to her. So one of the ways that you can really feel a deep telepathic connection with someone is being able to understand them. And it may be that you don't even know the details, like I was just giving in that example, but really being able to walk a mile in somebody's moccasins and really kind of like ask yourself the question, what is this person feeling right now? If I was them, basically, what is it that they're feeling? So it's a really good way to understand someone telepathically. Now, the other way that we can feel that there's a sign there that we have a strong telepathic connection with someone is this sense of spiritual connection, of soulful connection, of basically often call it soul recognition. It's like, and it's really big with twin souls, but you can have this with everyone, where you just know them beyond all knowing. It's kind of like that soul recognition. Okay, I've had other lives with you, could be a way to understand the telepathic communication with someone. But also it's this feeling that you just have this trust. You feel like you can trust them and you don't even understand why. It's like maybe you don't know them that well, but you just have this inner knowing and you feel this sense of home. You also, another deep sign that you have a deep telepathic communication with someone is, and this is one that is really can freak some people out. And I say that not necessarily in a bad way, but it's the fact of you can see through another person. You can see through to their soul beyond the masks that they put up. So one of the things that is a good example of this is like you ask somebody how they're doing and they're like, oh, I'm fine. Yet telepathically, energetically, you know darn well right they're fine. And you're able to see through that and then maybe inquire even deeper because you can feel that telepathic connection and say to them, you know what? I kind of get the sense that something's wrong. Are you sure you're okay? Asking in that kind of telepathic communication, right? Of compassion. That is a sign that you have a telepathic communication with someone. And again, I can refer to my twin soul. I see through him. And he's often said this about me, that I know him better than he knows himself. And one day, about maybe, I think 2 years or so into our relationship, into our connection, he rang me one day and he didn't even say hello. And I knew it was him, not because of caller ID or anything. I just telepathically, again, I knew it was him. And he didn't even say hello. He just said, "How do you do that?" And I'm like, "How do you do what?" And how did I do what? And he's like, you see through me. You just know. How do you do that? And I'm like, I can't really explain it. I feel you. I understand you. I get you. That's a huge sign of a telepathic connection. Now, I also have that with him. He just can sense what I need in the moment. And he may send me a text message and I'm like, how did you know that I needed that? I needed to hear that today. Thank you. Right? That's how you know. That's a huge sign. Now, the other ones, signs that tells you you have a deep connection with someone telepathically, it's effortless. You don't really have to practice it. You're really free from trying. It's just there. Again, it's that isness. Oftentimes you'll have synchronicities that happen as well. You may start thinking about this person and you may see 1111 or 222. Numbers are big, or you may see feathers around you when you think of this person. That's how you know you have a good telepathic, strong connection. The intuition between you is also big. And it's beyond what would be earthly circumstances. It's always present, it's always consistent, and it's always constant. It's not like it goes on and off, it's just always there. That's how you can tell. Even if you have like fights, or you have disagreements, or certain circumstances or situations happen, again, I'll refer to the earthly twins. You could be on the opposite ends of the globe and you still have that strong connection. That's how you can tell you have one. Another big one, you can often feel someone's physical pain. They come to you in dreams as well. This is how you also know you have good telepathic communication with someone. Your spiritual gifts often open up more as well as a result of this telepathic communication. And again, it can be with people, it can be with animals, it can be with objects as well. And because everything has a soul, even inanimate objects. The other way you can tell is you have a remembering of other lives together. This shares this telepathic communication. And you also have a shared mission and purpose together. This is also another sign that tells you you have good telepathic communication with someone. And going back for a second, just to the feeling of the symptoms, quick story to share with you on this. About 2 years in, maybe 3 years into my connection with my twin soul, he had been drinking. He was on the drink for a time. And he had been drinking, and I started having issues with my liver. My liver started playing up. And I'm like, this is odd because I don't have any issues with my liver. And I ended up talking to him and he's like, yeah, I had a session with a healer and this healer was telling me I need to detox my liver because, I kind of had a bit too much to drink over the weekend. And I'm like laughing. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. Yeah. So that's a perfect example of a strong connection telepathically with someone. I don't wish that on anybody feeling physical symptoms, but it can happen.
Lots and lots of tips here and signs. So thank you for sharing all of those. And if you feel like you're telepathically connected to someone, you might not have all of these signs, but even just a few of them are things to look out for.
Definitely.
Yes. I want to add when people finish each other's sentences.
Oh, yeah,
That's
a good one. Yep, very true.
That can be one. Yes, there's lots of signs here, and the telepathic communication is not just limited to people that are currently living either. It can be people on the other side as well, especially if you're seeing the angel numbers or the feathers, because those are two big ones I know that are popular in mediumship from people
Yes.
on the other side trying to reach out.
Aye, very much so. Very much so.
Great. So yes, lots of things. I hope you're all taking notes here. If not, you can rewind the video when it's published and watch that again because there's lots and lots of great tips here to look out for, keep an eye out for. So let's talk about some exercises that listeners can practice and practical things we can do to enhance our telepathy with a partner or a group.
Okay. Awesome. This is another one that I love because it's fun. One of the things that I love to do, and again, I'm going to refer back to my crystal. One of the exercises that you can do to enhance your telepathic communication with people or animals or objects is crystals. They are natural amplifiers. So I think it's very important. You can have them, you can hold them. You can have them just around you. You can do crystal gridding, but really being able to tap into that is a really excellent way. And of course, with that, meditation. Meditation gives us the ability to really amplify our telepathic communications because when we're meditating, it is a way for us to be able to telepathically tune in to the divine. So we're already working our muscle, if you will, on telepathy in meditation. So that's something most people can do. Now, one of the fun things that I love to do to enhance telepathic communication, and it's something I teach in my courses and something that I can do with you if you call in to my extension 7504. I would love to do this in a reading with you just for the fun of it. And I would stress that this is something you want to do that is free from about a right or wrong. Because you want to be able to just get in the practice of it and make it fun, which I call the telepathic colors game. So you want to be able to do this, and I love doing this with animals too, because you can get an immediate response telepathically from them. Whereas sometimes there's a delay with human beings, right? Because they second guess themselves. Animals of all sorts, whether it's dogs, cats, giraffes, horses, doesn't matter. You can get an immediate response. Is just basically envision a color. Like right now, I'm going to do this with everybody who's watching this now. And Phoenix, you can go ahead and guess and see what the color is that I am sending. So I'm going to close my eyes for a minute and I'm going to transmit now color. What do you feel it is?
Let's give people a minute to comment their responses at this point.
Exactly.
Go ahead and type in the comments
Yeah,
what
type
you believe the color is.
exactly. Type in the comments. Now, I'm also going to say with this too, you may not just get a blob of a color. You may actually, let's give the example for the color green. That's not the color that I chose, but let's just say the color is green. You may get a green field, and that's how it comes to you. You may feel the color. You may also, for those of you who have this, and I have this gift myself of synesthesia, which means you can feel it in a different way, which is you can taste it. Yeah. So you might taste what the color green tastes like to you. Maybe it tastes like seaweed. So you don't know. But when you're coming up with something as the color, it might not be just a blob of the color. Keep that in mind. Okay. So I'm going to leave that as for you to call into me. Call into my extension 7504 and let me know what that color was, and I'll see if you guessed it right. Now, the other amazing way, and you can use this for so many different things, but one of the basic things that you can do to strengthen your telepathic communication is something that I call soul gazing. Now, if you want to strengthen your telepathic communication with yourself and the universe, I would invite you to do this in the mirror, where you're soul gazing into your own eyes. And it's very therapeutic and it's very healing, because as you well know, the eyes are the window to the soul. The eyes are the window to telepathic communication. So mirror gazing would be the first step. Soul gazing with another person. You're not saying a word. This is where you get your strongest telepathic communication, because you're free from saying a word at all. You're just gazing into someone's eyes and you're receiving whatever is meant to be received. Now, I will tell you, for those of you who are free from doing this ever, or struggle with this, you may feel uncomfortable. You may have some laughter come up. I've often done this in groups, because this is a great group exercise to do as well, because you asked about groups. You can do this individually. You can pair people up in groups and what have you to do this exercise as well. You'll often get two that get paired up. And oftentimes, if there's an odd number, I'll put a group of 3 together, which is really fun to try to do this with, because then you're trying to telepathically gaze with like 2 people at once. So it's actually hilarious. And you'll have like the joy guides come in and people will start laughing. And sometimes it's like a nervous laughter, but sometimes it's literally just like the joy guides coming in. But soul gazing is a wonderful way to be able to amplify your own personal gifts of telepathy, and then also with others. And you can do this with animals too. Animals love to, if you come to them in a soul gaze, loving way, where you're meeting them at their level, you can soul gaze with their eyes and receive huge amounts of telepathy from them, and you receiving from them and them receiving from you. And the other one, which I love to do, is telepathic communication with a flower. That's an awesome way. And also, again, I'm going to refer back, crystals. You can see through in telepathic communication and receive loads of wisdom in that way. Doing that, it's something that's fun too.
Lots of great tips for us to try here. But definitely, I encourage you to do this with your partner if you have a roommate, or if you live with someone, or you're in a relationship, or even just a friend. Definitely try some of these exercises. The color one is a great one. I've heard of that before, actually. And I'm so curious now what the color is, but I know you want people to call in to Lady Nenari. I get that. Very
Exactly.
smart. But yes, very good. So, yeah, but do that with your friend, do that with a partner, and the more you do these things, the stronger your telepathic communication
And
connection with that person is going to be.
I'd like to add one other thing too, Phoenix. You also strengthen your relationships, because the soul gazing is really good between partners and friends, especially too. Let's say you've had a disagreement and you really need to be able to discuss that disagreement. Do the soul gazing first. I mean, just do it in general anyway, to strengthen your relationship, strengthen your telepathic communication. But it's really good when you've had a falling out with someone, or you've had that disagreement. And because basically what it does is it lets your heart open, it lets your defenses come down, so that you're able then to be more heart centered and to be more open and to be able to hear the person, not just telepathically, but also physically. So it's a really good benefit as well for that.
Definitely. I've not heard of that before, so it's very interesting. It's something to look into. Do you have any tips on how you would do that if you've never done it before?
Well, the first tip I would say is, that's why I suggested doing the mirror first and use gazing your own eyes, so that you can get more comfortable with it. And the biggest tip I would give is to do it first with someone that you trust. Whether it's a friend, a work colleague, your partner, start with someone that you trust, because doing it with someone that you trust will help build trust. Now, I'm going to give you opposite, counterintuitive of another tip, is actually do it with a stranger. Because sometimes we feel intimidated trying to do it with somebody we feel close to. And sometimes, strangers we're never going to see again. Now, are we really strangers? Nay, really, because we're all connected, right? We're all soulfully connected, but someone you may never see again, strike up a conversation with and just gaze into their eyes. Not even like deliberately, hey, I want to do this soul gazing exercise with you. No, just start a conversation with somebody, whether you're in a coffee shop or what have you, and make it that you gaze in their eyes. It gives you practice. You'll never see them again, probably, right? But it gives you the ability to start to feel comfortable with doing such. Those would be the biggest tips that I would give. But really, if you want to like deepen your bonds in all of your relationships, do that. And then also do it like in a party atmosphere. If you're having your birthday, I just celebrated my birthday. Have a birthday party and do it as a fun party game, so that you break the ice with people. Yeah. What you want to do is basically make it something enjoyable, not necessarily intense. That way you can really get your practice in.
Thank you for those tips and happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
It'll probably be really belated by the time we're posting because we pre-record these. But
that's okay. It's all good.
Yeah, happy birthday. Wonderful. So those are really great tips. Definitely try those and get comfortable with it. There's great ways again to build your telepathy and the ability to telepathically communicate. Can you share any specific exercises for sending and receiving thoughts, images, or emotions telepathically?
So funny, I was going to say we're going to expand upon the color game for a moment. You actually can do this with the color game and do it with words and phrases or objects. So I'm going to go back to the crystal for a moment. Let's say you have a friend who is like we are at the moment on the other side of the globe from each other. Choose a crystal if you have one in your house. I'm choosing this one so you all know that it's this one. But let's say you have another crystal that you really love. Send the image of that crystal telepathically to that person and then have them write to you or text you or ring you up and ask them, did you get my image of the crystal? Right? And the other way to do it too is with music, like we talked about earlier. Maybe the two of you, let's say you have a good friend of yours that you have a really good song that you love. Like I had an old friend of mine back in Canada when I was living in Canada. One of my many homes, Scotland, is also one of my many homes as well. You may hear the Scottish accent a wee bit in there. But my friend in Canada, we had that song. I can't even remember what year it came out, but called Hey Soul Sister. So oftentimes when I was thinking about her and we hadn't talked in a while, I would start sending that to her. And all of a sudden I'd get a text from her, hey, I was thinking about Hey Soul Sister. Were you just thinking about me? It's like, yeah, practice that way. Make it fun because it's important that you put a sense of fun into it. Because if you're serious all the time with it, and it is serious work sometimes when you're dealing with telepathy, but if you make it so that it's fun and that it's light, those type of exercises will help even more. Now, the other thing I would say is something that I call opening up your soul eye or your third eye. We often call this our third eye, but really it opens up multidimensionally to all of the different eyes multidimensionally across the universe. So strengthening your soul eye is something important to do. And I have a specific meditation that I do. So if you call in, I can teach you that tip and tricks. My extension 7504 on Mysticsense. I'd love to be able to teach you that.
Excellent. And Lady Nenari will also be linked in the description of this video, at least on some platforms. So definitely click that link, go find her and connect with her to get a reading or, meditate with her and share your color and everything else that we've talked about so far. Lots of little Easter eggs throughout this episode, which is great.
Indeed.
Very fun. I have an exercise as well that you can try. Try envisioning whatever it is, whether, and not envisioning, not meaning you have to see it, but, feeling it, hearing it, sensing it with whatever clear senses you have strongest. and try pushing that, whatever it is, the song, the color, the image, push it out of your third eye and imagine it being ejected from your mind and going out to the person.
Ooh,
Like
I love that.
almost like sending it. You see it, feel it, hear it, and just push it out of you towards wherever you want to send it. Um,
I
that's one
love
exercise you can use for sending.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll expand upon that too. Another way you can do it too. I call this working in the dream time. Have that same vision that you're talking about and pushing it out of your soul eye as you're drifting off to sleep, so that it works in your dream time. Because like we are right now, right? We're in completely different time zones. We're on opposite ends of the globe, right? So at this present moment, some people might be sleeping and others are awake. So if you're doing it in your dream time and say your friend or whoever you're wanting to send it to is on the other side of the globe, you're working in your dream time doing that same exercise, it will be received to them in their waking hours.
So interesting.
Hi.
Just so people get an idea of how far we are, what time is it there right now?
It is
The time.
actually almost 2 in the afternoon here.
Okay. 2 p.m. on Monday, correct?
It is.
Okay. So here it's 8:56, so it's almost 9 p.m. Sunday where
Yep.
I'm at.
Exactly.
That's like a lot. So that gives you an idea of how far apart we are. 9
Exactly.
p.m. to 2 or 2 p.m.
Yep.
9 p.m. to 2 p.m. is like that's our time difference. So
The following day for
yeah,
me, right? Yeah.
I know it's so far. It's amazing how far it is, and that we're connecting it in real time like this.
I know. It's
But
amazing,
yeah,
isn't it?
so that I know. It just goes to show that time is just a concept.
Exactly. Very much so. And
um,
this is where telepathic communication is the strongest, when you understand it's timeless.
mhm. Yeah, exactly. It's timeless. So it doesn't matter when you send it, when you
Yep.
receive it, because time is just an idea. Whether it's
Exactly.
9 p.m. Sunday or 2 p.m. Monday,
Yep.
it's still now. It's still
I
the
know.
present for
Indeed.
us. So yeah, so that's one tip on sending. As far as the receiving, I just kind of sense my aura, and anything that doesn't feel like me, I just kind of open it like I'm opening a letter, and that's how I receive the information. You want to be careful with this because you don't want to absorb it because you don't know what it is or where it came from necessarily. Um, but opening it, viewing it, looking at it is not the same thing as just absorbing it into your energy.
Exactly.
Do you have anything to say on that?
Well, it kind of ties into what our last question is. If you want me to go ahead and bridge into
Okay.
that, because this goes into, how we can incorporate these different exercises into our daily routine. For me, for receiving, and one of the things that I teach is to be able to be as connected and remembering, I should say, our connection with the divine, because being that clear channel and having that intention of that clear channel and being connected to the divine has its automatic and instantaneous protection. So anything that you're going to receive is going to come in basically in that same love and light that source or the divine or the universe is. It will not allow anything else malevolent to come in if you set that intention. So for receiving, it's very important to have your intention is everything, and making sure that your intention is to be that clear channel and to be able to receive what is meant to be received in that positive light of source.
That's a really good tip as well. That protection piece is important. Um, we also have a previous episode on psychic protection specifically. If you are concerned about that, it would be good to watch. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and read the last question then.
Okay.
How can listeners incorporate telepathy exercises into their daily routines for ongoing practice and development? There's lots of ways to do it.
There is lots of ways to do it. First and foremost, I would say is telepathy, even though it is our natural essence. It is who we are. We are already telepathic. It is like a muscle, though. The more you use it, the more you practice it, the stronger it's going to get. And the stronger it gets, the more you're able to use it. So practice, 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 practice. Conscious practice, right, is important. And making it so that it's fun. So all the different things that we have already talked about, like the telepathic colors game, like the soul gazing, these are ways that you can strengthen it and be able to be more telepathic and incorporating that into your daily routine. I make it a daily thing. Even now, I mean, for me, it's instantaneous. It's always there. But even now, I still love to engage in those fun exercises as part of my ongoing daily practice. The other part that I think is very important that I'll reiterate that I just said is being that clear channel and your intention. Intention is everything because telepathy is vibration, frequency, and energy. It's a vibrational frequency energy. So your intention is important. So things like daily affirmations. Daily affirmations of appreciation. Appreciation is one of the strongest signals to the universe that puts you in a receptive space for telepathic communication. Now, why do I say appreciation? Appreciation is different than gratitude. Gratitude usually we have after the fact. Oh, I'm so grateful such and such happened. And I'm so thankful for this person or this situation or this circumstance. Appreciation is present tense. What did we just talk about? Telepathy is always in the present moment. It's timeless. It's formless. It's infinite. It is this isness. So to be able to tune into that is to be in the present moment. So appreciation is in the present moment. So being in appreciation, maybe do an appreciation journal. And appreciation also, it's like a house. When you buy a house, what happens? It appreciates or grows in value. So everything that you do grows in value. Everything that you appreciate grows in value. So being that important telepathic communication means being in that place of a clear channel of appreciation. Again, the protection, the automatic light of source, surrounding that around you every day in your daily practice. Meditating, keeping yourself calm and centered in your breathing. Very important so that you're always that flow and understanding that telepathic communication isn't an on and off switch. It's always there. It's being cognizant of it. And also practicing listening. The last thing I would say is become intimate. And I don't mean that in like a sexual sense. I mean, become intimate, intimacy, see into yourself. The more you know thyself, the more you become intimate with yourself and know and understand yourself, the more you can be telepathic with others in that listening, in that connection. Those are the things that I would say in practicing in the daily routine is like everything we've talked about here already, and just making sure that you're conscious about it every day.
Thank you for sharing that. I love how you explained appreciation versus gratitude. I feel like that's something a lot of people don't understand or don't think about. It's not something I've thought about, but it makes a lot of sense in how appreciation in the present enhances whatever we're doing. I really like that. I feel like that's a big takeaway for us.
Bye.
Yes. So thank you for sharing. Another thing I want to put in there is that learning how to do telepathic communication can help with mediumship, in my opinion,
Definitely.
because a lot of mediumship is telepathic communication. So it can enhance that. And talking to your spirit guides or your angels is a great way to get that practice in on a daily basis. Because oftentimes, if they don't send us signs or symbols, they're going to be communicating telepathically. So that's a great way to do daily practice as well.
Absolutely. And one of the things I teach in my courses and mentoring when I do sessions work with people is that it's great to tap into our spirit guides and our angels and everything else. Ultimately, though, it's all source. It's all the divine, and they're just coming through as the divine. So yes, making sure we're daily in contact with the divine, with our spirit guides, with our fairies, our angels, our gnomes, our even our other lives, our other selves. This is why I love doing the Akashic Records, because I'm able to tune into those other lives and maybe let you know about another life that you have, that you can tap into when you're doing this telepathic work. Have a telepathic conversation with who you were in the 1500s. Have a telepathic conversation with maybe what we call a future life, even though all our lives are being lived right now in the present moment. A life 400 years in the future, tune into that life. Being able to do that in meditation and be able to get that telepathic wisdom, oh my God, that's like off the charts.
I want to go try that now. That is
Absolutely.
not something I thought about, but that's, yeah, and this, like we were saying all along, is there's so many applications for telepathy as well.
Very much so.
So many different ways you can use it.
Very much so.
Hmm.
And that's the beauty. That's why
Yeah,
I
so
love doing the readings and the work that I do with Mysticsense, because we dive deep into those kind of topics. You know, like you said, it's not something that you would have thought about, oh, have a conversation with someone you've, been in another life, or even in another object. I mean, we are as souls. So we have been animals, we have been trees, we have been a crystal in another life in some cases, depending on where your soul's path and progression and how many lives you've had. I dive into all of that with you in a session. So if you get in touch with me, again, my extension is 7504, and my life path number is 4. That's one of the reasons I like my extension. And then 75 equals 12, which is another good number for me. So yeah, I mean, if you tap into my extension, and we can dive deep into these kind of things and dive into those infinite possibilities of things that you've never thought of before.
definitely. And yeah, so this is Lady Nenari. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with our viewers tonight before we wrap up?
The last thing I would say to share is always remember, no matter what you have been through, no matter what traumas, triggers, other lives you've had, remember the amazing soul that you are. I think so many times that we get wrapped up in the dramas and the traumas of life, and of this relationship is not working out, or this person has hurt me, or whatever. We forget about the core essence of who we really are as soul and why we're here on this earth, of our soul purpose. And so if I were to give one message, is to always remember the amazing light that you are, that you have a purpose for being here, and that you're here to shine that. And I would love to be able to give you wisdom on your path on how to do that. So thank you for allowing me to be here to share this wisdom on telepathy with you, and to be able to assist you. And just remember the amazingness that you are.
Thank you so much, Lady Nenari. It has been a pleasure having you here talking about telepathy on our podcast. Thank you so
Likewise.
much for sharing your expertise.
Mahalo, as
And
we
yes, you
say.
can find,
Thank you.
thank you. And you can find Lady Nenari for a personalized session if you'd like more information on any of these things, or to look into your past lives or Akashic Records at Mysticsense. Just search for Lady Nenari or find her in the link in the description of this video. Thank you so much for joining us. We
Thank
are
you
very
for having me.
grateful for you spending your hour with us.
I'm very
Yes,
appreciative.
and thank you. Me too. And this wraps up our session for this evening. So thanks for joining us. I hope that people learned many things and continue to learn many things on this exciting journey of telepathy. Have a great night. Thank
Have
you.
a wonderful evening
Bye.
wherever you are on this earth.